Streaming the meeting on YouTube, and a recording of the meeting will also be available afterwards as well. Those who are here at council on Tuesday will remember, it says here, that the sound system was slightly out of balance and we were getting some feedback noise. And that wasn't the speakers, that was just noise coming from the microphones and the speakers themselves. So hopefully this has been fixed, but I've been given some top tips, everyone, okay, in case it happens again. Are we all listening? Because it's important. There will be a quiz afterwards. I'll be asking you, okay? Tip number 1. Please try to keep the microphone pointed away from any speakers. That is those round circular ones, not the person next to you talking, all right? Make sure you keep the microphone pointed away. If you do hear feedback, the person speaking can try and help by, are we ready, moving the microphone. Doesn't say where, just moving the microphone. Cutting off the feedback by turning the microphone off and on again. The old engineering trick, if it doesn't work, turn it off and on, see if it goes then, which is good. Putting their hand over the microphone briefly could stop feedback, but not permanently, because we won't hear what you're saying if you do that, okay? And please remember to speak into the microphones towards you when speaking so that you are picked up for broadcast. So the bottom line of all, very good advice, thank you, because we want to prevent what happened on Tuesday, and we don't know the reason why, but it's never happened before, and it appears not to be happening again at the moment, so thank you to everyone. But make sure if you're sitting, which we do in Cabinet, you angle the microphone towards you so we can hear you. They are unidirectional microphones, so they don't pick up sound from elsewhere. So you need to have them switched towards you. Is everyone clear? Would anyone like me to run through the top tips again? Are we all clear? What's good? Okay, that's really good. Right. Now, we're not expecting a fire drill this morning, so if the alarm does sound, please follow the officers out of the building and gather in the cathedral grounds. So very shortly, I'll ask Cabinet colleagues and members of the opposition and Deputy Cabinet members to introduce themselves. We do have a couple of apologies this morning, which I'll do now, which is Councillor Louise McKinley, the Deputy Leader. Louise can't be here for what item number 1, which is to talk about local government reorganisation and also the statutory instrument, the Greater Essex Devolution Paper. Louise is a candidate for the mayoralty, and therefore we thought wise and under advisement that she should not take part in that. Also, Councillor John Spence is not here. But we do have his 2 brilliant deputies in Councillor Lynette Bowers-Flint and also Councillor Jane Fleming, who'll be here to answer any questions, particularly on the finance. And if not, then I will be here as well to do that. So that is the order we'll proceed, and I'll start with me. My name is Councillor Kevin Bentley. I am leader of the council.
Councillor Lynette Bowers-Flint, Deputy Cabinet Member to John Spence for Children's Services.
Tony Ball, Cabinet Member for Education, Excellence, Lifelong Learning and Employability.
And we're just remembering to angle the microphone towards us. That was part of the top tip, remember? Oh, already it's gone wrong. Okay, Councillor.
Councillor Mark Durham, the Cabinet Member for the Arts, Heritage and Culture.
Good morning. Good morning, Councillor Peter Schwer, a Cabinet Member for Environment, Waste Reduction and Recycling.
Morning, Councillor Jane Fleming, Deputy Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care.
Good morning, Chris Whitbread, Chancellor of Essex.
Good morning, Tom Cunningham, Cabinet Member for Highways, Infrastructure and Sustainable Transport.
Morning, Councillor Derek Lewis, Cabinet Member for Transformation.
Good morning, Lee Scott, Cabinet Member for Housing, Planning and Regeneration.
Before I go to the deputies and leaders of the opposition, our chief executive can't be here today, but we have a top officer here in her place.
Morning, Joanne Hyde, Executive Director, Corporate Services.
Mike McCrory, Leader of the Liberal Democrat Group.
Good morning, Lauren Shaw, Deputy to Councillor Cunningham.
Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Wendy Stamp, Independent Member. Thank you.
Very much. And online, we do have Councillors Henderson, Leader of Labour Party, Councillor Pond, Leader of the Independent and Opposition, and also Councillor King, the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrat Group. I won't get you to introduce yourself, guys, just because you're online, but just everyone knows you're here. And please raise your hands in the usual way so I can make sure I can bring you in for any particular item that you wish to speak on. So we move on to the minutes and the minutes of the Cabinet meeting on the 9th of September 2025. Members, are you content that I sign those? Thank you. Also, the minutes of the 18th of September. We had lots of meetings of the Cabinet in September 2025. Are you content that I signed those? Thank you. There are no questions from the public this morning that I'm aware of. I'll just double check. Everyone's saying no, we haven't. So thank you very much indeed for that. We move into the main items on the agenda. And the first one is the Greater Essex Devolution paper, which stands in my name. And I just want to take a moment to say this isn't just another report by the Cabinet or to the Cabinet. This is part of the great changes that are taking place. This is quite an historic moment. The three authorities, known as upper tier authorities, which in this case is Southend-on-Sea, Thurrock and ourselves, but in collaboration with our district colleagues as well, need to sign off the statutory instrument. This is the order that goes into a government for them to lay that before Parliament, and it's been with us for consultation. Southend-on-Sea and also Thurrock have already done this. Ours is being done now as a matter of the procedure, but I didn't want the occasion just to go without saying that this is an historic moment. This will create the mayoral combined authority. It will also create the position of mayor for the county of Essex, and indeed Greater Essex in this particular case. And the paper is laid out before you with the details on that. Now, I do have Councillor King who's raised a hand, and also Councillor McCrory. Councillor King online first.
Thank you very much indeed, Leader. Be right to say that this process has had many doubts and many concerns for many of us. It's going to require a huge change to the whole of Essex, and that will affect members and residents. But I want to talk to the positive, having been intimately involved in a large part of this, both in devolution and LGR as Deputy Leader of Essex Leaders and Chief Exec. So I want to offer a personal support for the recommendations. At this stage, what we have to do, and there are reservations within the report around voting, which many of us would share, not least district councils, I have to say. But this is a really important moment, as you've said, and it requires us all to put our shoulder to the wheel and to continue down the path that's set here. And therefore, I want to be really plain that I support this. It can make a huge difference done well. And I have been impressed by the quality of some of the work that I've seen. And despite differences, the quality of the residual cooperation, which is going to be essential to make a new combined authority and a mayoral authority a success. So that's all I'll say today. Thank you.
Councillor King, thank you very much indeed. Councillor McCrory.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I've got a general point to make and then 5 points of detail. My first question is there's an awful lot in this report which is new information to a lot of us, and I do feel that it's a real shame that this has not been, the detail in here has only, the generality has been through scrutiny. I think it would have benefited from all members would have benefited from having an in-depth look at this report. My first detailed question is 4.5 on page 18, where it talks about the leader wouldn't support this process if the voting arrangements stay the same. I was just wondering, what effect does that have if you do not support this? Is it just something that goes on the record, or does it have any sort of effect? Yes, please.
So just on your general point, I'm not aware that a lot of what's in here has not gone through scrutiny, also been made available to scrutiny on members. But nonetheless, the point taken, I thought a lot of this has been, in fact, I asked for it to go to scrutiny in the first place, both LGR and the devolution work as well. And I've appeared before the scrutiny panel to discuss it. So there we are. Perhaps it's just we have a difference of opinion on that. However, when we initially were told the voting rights of this new combined authority, it did appear to disproportionate the number of votes for a county compared to the other two upper tier authorities. Having discussed it and having negotiated around particularly the finance, I've been clear that we will put in the financial support appropriate to the number of votes that we will get on this, and also the fact that, to my knowledge, no combined authority ever gets to vote. It's on consensus, and we have worked brilliantly on consensus, and also that the combined authority in its initial phase will only last for a few months before we have the unitary elections and the unitary councils become part of the combined authority. This was a bigger deal than to worry about that particularly. So on that basis, and I discussed it with Cabinet in detail on this, we thought this was worth doing because the greater ability to get the Mayor of Essex for the people of Essex in the future is the prize. A mayor is going to be able to achieve far more than any of us as leaders, that I can achieve as a leader or my predecessors have ever achieved. Not that we can't do the job, but the limitations on the role mean we can't. And we've seen that elsewhere where mayors have been elected, what they've been able to do in their areas that leaders can't. So on that basis and on balance, well, initially I said to the government, I wasn't very happy. Those discussions have taken place, discussed with the Cabinet. We are content to let this go forward.
Thank you. I'll come to the voting point in a second or two. Paragraph 6.1 on page 20, I think that last sentence would have been something that members of scrutiny would have been very interested in, where it says there's no limit to the amount of money that a combined county can demand from constituent councils. And this places ECC at financial risk. I wonder if you could just comment on that and what extent does he think the financial risk is? Thank you.
Yes, it is advice that is given, and it is a fact, yes. My view, as I just explained, that you're rarely in a position where anyone's at risk because you'll have common cause to make this a success for Essex. Bearing in mind this authority will not exist in less than 3 years' time. So therefore, the risk to us, I think, is minimal from looking at it, although it's right that officers should point out that there is a risk. You'd be failing in doing that. There's a risk with anything, isn't there? Anything you do, and it depends on your appetite for risk. Look at Bewley Station. The list of risks was so huge, you'd think any sensible person would have said no. And I said the greatest risk is not to do it. And next week, we open Bewley Park Station. It was the right thing to do. And it's the same thing here. On balance, this is the right risk to take.
And apparently I'm not invited, but there we go. Your point about voting rights, 6.4, the third bullet down. I mean, we're very much with you on that one. In fact, it talks about 1, maybe 2. I mean, it'd be nice if it was even 3 to balance that. So we're 100% with you on that particular point. Moving on to another point about financial risk, significant financial risk on page 24. Bear with me. This is the beauty of being on screen, isn't it? Sorry. Is again, it says there is another significant financial risk on that one. And again, you know, this is something of a concern to all of us. And again, I think if these significant financial risks have been drawn out in scrutiny, I think more questions would have been asked about how sustainable this all is. And then my very last point, and I think it must be a typo, is 10.3.3 on page 24. There's a word absent in there, and I really don't know what that means. I don't know whether he could enlighten us on that one.
I think it means absent votes or absent people. I think it means in that case. I'm just looking at the monitoring, obviously, and come back to you in a second, and we can correct that. Your very first point, I didn't know you weren't invited. You will be. As of this moment, and my head of the Cabinet Office is in the room, and I'm sure he's already, I can see him typing, an invite is on its way to you. That's remiss. You are a local member in that area, as well as being the leader of your group, so you should be there, and that will be done. The voting rights I have covered, of course, and again, the financial risk I have covered as well. There's always risk, and it's right that officers should point out that risk in anything you do. I just mentioned Bewley Park again. The list of risks were almost outweighed the report itself, but the biggest risk is not to do it. That's why, on balance here, the biggest risk for the County of Essex in the future is not to create a mayor. That's why I'm happy to go forward. I might have had a different view if we were going to be sustainable as an authority going forward in terms of being here. We're not, and the voting rights will change again once there are unitary councils, however the configuration will be in that particular case. Can I just check with the monitoring officer that we're just missing the word absent votes on that on 10.3.3?
So I was just intending to mean that without, I was using absent in the word of without. So it will be difficult to change the voting rights once they're agreed. That's the point I'm making. But they will, obviously the voting rights will be changed if all the councils are abolished. But if local government reorganisation doesn't go ahead for any reason, which we all expect it to go ahead, but if it doesn't go ahead, then we would be stuck with these voting rights. I suspect that was the point that I was making.
Very clever lawyer language, you see. That's what we're hearing. Well done. Thank you very much indeed for that. Right. Thank you, Councillor McCrory, for your vote. I hope we've done everything, and you have an invite now waiting for you to go to the opening Bewley station. I saw Councillor Scott, then I saw Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Leader. This is truly a momentous day. If we look at some of the other areas that have mayors, they're at the top table. If I'm not mistaken, that after the current government came into power, they called all the mayors together to discuss plans for the future. And being at that top table is vitally important for the people of Essex. Also, if we can look at some of the success stories that previous mayors have had, such as the former mayor of London, Mayor Johnson, the former mayor of the Midlands, Mayor Street, and indeed the current mayor of Manchester, where they've taken powers and really acted on those powers to make their areas better. The mayor of Essex, whoever he or she might be, will have those powers. We will be at the top table, and it's where we should be, and it's the way forward. So I'm delighted to support this. And there will be difficult times ahead. There's always difficulties in changes, but this is the right change to make. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Leader. In the Essex Year of Opportunity, I think that we need to recognise the great opportunity that our county has by having a mayor. And remember, this is devolving powers from Whitehall, powers that we've been complaining about, that mandarins or remote ministers make decisions, particularly around adult skills, but also as the mayor embeds herself, but him or herself, in their office, then more responsibilities and powers around transport and planning and so forth will come and be important for the people of Essex, delivered in Essex. And I think that's the essence. Again, referring to the skills, we know, and the mayor will know, what skills we lack in Essex, as opposed to looking at a national picture. And funds can be directed for us to be able to train Essex people for those skills that are required and to fill those jobs that are required in Essex. I'd also like to say that, of course, it was the last government that commenced the mayors, certainly nationwide. And I know a previous Prime Minister certainly had the vision of wanting, at certain times a year, to have the mayors in Downing Street and saying, I'm talking to England by talking to the mayors. And I'm very pleased that the current government have carried that on. Councillor Scott mentioned about the success of mayors, and those of us who were in Manchester last week actually saw the good work that Mayor Burnham has done, and congratulate for that, and we look forward to that opportunity in Essex. Leader, you've mentioned around the voting rights, which I absolutely agree. Nothing, as you say, nothing without risk, but the opportunities that are there for the residents of Essex far outweigh those risks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Councillor Henderson, then Councillor Durham. Councillor Henderson, you're welcome online.
Thank you, Leader, and I'd like to associate myself with the comments being made earlier by Councillor David King about the whole future for Essex under these new proposals. For some, I should imagine, Leader, this is going to be a daunting time. Any changes are hard to take for some people, but I believe this is going to be an exciting time. And just to mention one briefly on the back of Councillor Tony Board, who just spoke, I'm pleased that we're actually got a Greater Essex mayor being elected, because if you look, it wasn't far back that we were talking about a county deal without a mayor. So this actually delivers exactly what we want. And I think it's a really important time at the moment for all of us, for whatever district, borough or city you're in. As it's been mentioned, the mayor will take responsibility in May. We need to make sure that our priorities and our opportunities are well known to that future mayor, and the impact that we want to make within our own particular areas, whether it be on economic growth, employment, training, and as Councillor Ball mentioned, the skills requirement for the future. We need to make sure that the mayor is completely aware of those opportunities that we want to see fulfilled for the future for all our residents around Essex. So I just want to say I welcome this. I also want to mention that all of these changes, all of the work that's taken place so far has been as a result of the fantastic officers we've had, not just on this council, but also around those city, borough and district councils who have all got involved. This is a big upheaval for a lot of those officers, but I think we should show our appreciation for all the work that they've done to get us where we are now. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I agree completely on everything, actually, but certainly on the officers who've made this happen, along with, I'd say, politicians too. This has been a particular dream of mine for a long time, but I'm conscious we have to bring people along with us, persuade people or listen to people. We've done that, I think, as politicians across the county. We've done it in our own council, and we've done it certainly in our own cabinet as well, and all politicians involved in this. And I think while people may think, why are we doing this? It won't be long in the future years that they'll start to realise why this is so important and how it will directly affect their lives. Councillor Durham.
Thank you very much. We here have been immersed in this for really quite some time, but we really shouldn't underestimate the importance of this to the residents of Essex, because this is actually one of the most significant changes in government in generations, and it's certainly going to shape the future for residents for, you know, probably getting on for the next 100 years. You know, we know there are problems with the current system of local government, and particularly in terms of financial viability. And hopefully this move and this milestone that we're taking today by this resolution, to quote somebody else, will enable us to move forwards into broad sunlit uplands. And perhaps we should regard this as our finest hour.
To quote another Essex politician. Thank you. Councillor Schwer.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to really back up some of the very well-made comments about the importance of this day and the decision that is coming to Cabinet and its support. And the combined mayoral authority has got a tremendous importance going forward, because at last, Essex is going to be able to speak with one voice and represent all the residents, the communities and our businesses. And that's going to be very facilitating in order to be able to feed back the one voice to Essex to government as well, to make those differences. also in conjunction with communication and also influence with all other types of national bodies, from national highways to the NHS and everything else. And of course, it's going to have fantastic, I think, going forward, strategic ability as well, that is going to start delivering and looking at long-term benefits of delivering infrastructure and all the facilities that everyone has been talking about. And for once, it's going to bring everything together, including all of our district and boroughs, and that ability to be able to land so much more for Essex going forward. So I welcome it.
Thank you, Councillor Swear. Are there any other comments? Yes, Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Leader. I actually totally agree with Councillor Swear. I was going to say exactly the same. I'm excited because I live in a rural area, as everybody knows, and I can't wait for the mayor to be appointed. I'm sure they're going to have a good ear and they're going to actually equal things up, because I do believe rural communities are at a disadvantage for many, many infrastructure requirements that aren't delivered from this council due to financial constraints, which we all are aware of. And I wanted to attend this meeting because I 100% support and are looking forward to the changes that are coming, and I embrace it. I know that many people have concerns, but I think if they are informed and give it a chance, it is going to be better for everybody in the long term. Of course, there's going to be bumps in the road because everybody's got to learn to work together and stop trying to be maybe just speaking for what they want rather than what's best for their residents. So I congratulate this authority and yourself and your cabinet members and members of the opposition for actually taking this brave step to go forward, and you do have my support. So thank you, everybody.
Councillor Stamp, thank you very much indeed, and thank you to all the speakers and speaking so positively as well. So we're going to come to the vote, and I just want to say again, this isn't just any vote. This is very historic. You're about to create something brand new for this county that will last for decades, if not longer than that. And it will also see the demise eventually of Essex County Council and our district councils and unitary councils as we understand them, but they will be reborn again in new unitary councils with a mayor. And I feel very excited about the prospects as I go into my older age of what can be achieved in this county, and you're about to make that happen. So, colleagues, the recommendations are before you, 2.1 to 2.4. Please note within that, you're also agreeing to appoint Colin Ansell, who's currently the Chief Executive of Southend-on-Sea City Council, as our returning officer for the Mayoralty. Very important point that you just realised that. Very good person, by the way, but very important point you realise that. But 2.1 to 2.4, are you agreed? Colleagues, thank you very much indeed. Let's move on then on to another equally important contract as well, because it's part of the same story in a sense, the procurement of highway services contract. We will be doing this anyway. It's been it's the first of its kind in terms of we are creating a longer term contract for an authority that will change and become something else in future years, not too long future years, with the new unitary councils. The way that I will say this, so not to embarrass too much the cabinet member and all the team of behind him and the staff and highways who've done this and our legal services and procurement, to be able to do this with all the changes coming in place is not easy. It's not easy at the best of times, but this is not easy. It has been done superbly. I hope you agree anyway. I certainly think it's been done superbly. And I'll hand over to Councillor Cunningham now to present the highway services contract.
Chairman, thank you very much indeed, and very much in that spirit of change, as you allude to. We bring today the paper that sets the plan in motion for a new highways contract for Essex when the existing one comes to an end in March 2027. Before I speak in detail, I'd like to thank all those who have been involved in the Future of Highways programme at both member and officer level from all parties. Work excellently started by my predecessor in 2022, Councillor Lee Scott, and particular thanks to the officers who have helped steer the process throughout. The highway service is one of our universal services, covering the design, maintenance, and improvement of the infrastructure, which is all of our road network, footways and cycleways and the assets associated with it, from bridges and structures to street lighting and traffic lights. All our services at the County Council rely on this service in some way, and most importantly, we know how much this matters to our residents, and quite rightly, they have high expectations for us to deliver. The services are diverse, including winter service, drainage, development management, public rights of way, virgin tree maintenance. The current arrangements include the maintenance of nearly 5,000 miles of roads. We used to say that was greater than the distance between Chelmsford and Moscow. We've gone away and looked at our globe again, and in fact, the 5,000 miles would take you to Mumbai. It's the largest highways contract of any kind in the country. A course for this renewal process was set, yet the thundering express train of local government reorganisation came hurtling down the line, and that has led to a major rethink and the bringing of a paper which is quite unique. Commissioning services for the period of 27-28 and being able to novate those services to 3, 4 or 5 new successor unitary authorities for the remainder of the contract, ensuring service continuity to successor authorities, all set up, ready to go to deliver the fundamentals, whilst having the flexibility for these new councils to add their discretionary elements based on their own priorities. A 7-year contract allows the new council to understand the service needs of their communities and then consider what works best in the future. A very sensible solution at a time of great change and great upheaval. The pace of LGR and change, allied to devolution and a mayor being elected, could have led to huge market uncertainty. I'm delighted to say that despite these changes, the excellent work that has been undertaken since 2022 to engage the market is proving fruitful. We enter the business end of this process with considerable market interest in carrying out this work for Essex residents. We can be confident of several high-quality bidders from the industry, and that's a great testimony to the benchmarking work that has been carried out by ECC and is good news for all our existing council taxpayers. Key to the design of the contract was the acknowledgement that we need to power up the client commissioning function. Our existing team does a fantastic job, but it's too small and potentially too remote from all elements of the contract. We acknowledge that and have designed a large function which can be disaggregated when the contract novates to the unitary council and is delivered in lots. This means we leave to our successors the best possible expertise we can, the knowledge, experience and resilience to run these challenging services well, and we have set to work on putting that in place straight away. The recommendation is for a single provider model using the industry standard NEC4 term service contract for the period of 7 years at an estimated value of £1 billion. In conclusion, and seeking Cabinet approval to go out to tender at this time of great excitement, opportunity, as well as the uncertainty that comes with a huge change, I'm delighted with what we are putting to the market. We are engaging our partner authorities, and that's been very positive so far, and taking their feedback on board. And until the moment we take our sign down from above the door, we'll be working with them to land these services in the best possible way we can. In terms of the future of highways in the 12 existing districts that Essex County Council serves, this is the right contract for them at the right time, and I'm delighted to commend to Cabinet this morning. Chairman, I appreciate colleagues will have some questions on that and be very pleased to answer. I have to declare that I'm not particularly explicitly knowledgeable of all the elements of the NEC4 term service contract, but we have people in the room, expertise in the room who are, so I may defer to them on a couple of questions, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. And please do, if you feel that you need to ask an officer to be able to answer, they'll be most welcome to. Right, we do have 3 speakers, Councillor Henderson, Councillor McCrory and Councillor Scott. Councillor Henderson, we'll come to you first, if we may.
Thank you, Leader, and thank the portfolio holder for a really, really good report there. And it makes good reading. And the part that I would like to highlight, or perhaps he would like, if he can, give examples where he mentions that the current ECC client staffing has proven over the last 12 years to be too small. It would be interesting to see what the examples and what the impact of that, the reason behind that and what that has resulted in. And on page 36, 3.9, I think it's, page 34, it says a contract management to focus on quality assurance. I think that's been one of the issues that residents have been mostly concerned with, is about the quality of our road repairs and resurfacing that has taken place over the years. So It's good to hear that there'll be a quality insurance. Can you tell me that we will have a team that can check and look at works as and when they're taking place to check to make sure that they meet those quality assurances, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you very much. And I'm very appreciative of Councillor Henderson's comments and general support for the direction we're taking. I just want to give an assurance that we satisfy all quality requirements at Essex County Council. If there are issues raised in terms of safety or quality of works, they are followed up and they are put right. Where I totally accept criticism is that there is always improvement that can be made in terms of the speed of delivery of some of these queries. And I think that is, if we're in a reflective mood over the contract that was agreed in 2012, that the model with current model with Ringway Jacobs has many great advantages, yet perhaps too much of that expertise, that commissioning, that check and challenge sits over there with the partner authority, when actually it would have been better placed sitting within an Essex County Council client function. And that was always going to be our approach if we were a continuing authority. By putting that work in place now, we are ensuring that expertise sits back with the corporate body and can be disaggregated to the new unitary authorities. My personal recommendation will be for the obviously for the new sovereign successor authorities to make their own mind about that. But actually, the contract will be delivered in lots. I would do all I can to keep that quality of expertise in one place so it can serve the delivery of all the lots for the time of the existing contract. That would be my personal recommendation. I think from the lessons learnt over the last 15 years, I think that would serve Essex, the 12 districts that we're bequeathing services to best over the next 10 years. I hope that sort of answers some of his questions. Happy to come back if it doesn't. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Right. I do have Councillor Pond indicating. So, Councillor Scott, if you don't mind, after Councillor Crawley, I'll go to Councillor Pond so the opposition leaders have a chance to ask questions. Then I'll come to you on the Cabinet later. Councillor McCrory.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Well, as a member of the working group from its inception, to that extent, I have the advantage over most non-cabinet members, albeit under very strict confidentiality requirements. So I was unable to pass on any of the detail of those discussions over the last 3 years to my group. But I would just say, and I did say this at the last briefing, that I did have concerns about the lack of scrutiny of what is a £1 billion contract, maybe even double that. I fail to understand why, during the period when this was published, why we couldn't have had proper scrutiny of this contract. I think it's just a shame that members didn't have that opportunity to learn of this detail, because after all, this is, rightly or wrongly, the biggest issue for all our members. Having said that, again, I've said at those working group meetings, you know, this was a fiendishly difficult issue to have to grapple with, and the officers over that 3 years, as the cabinet member has mentioned, had to deal with a hand grenade lobbed in halfway through, which wasn't particularly helpful. But nevertheless, we are where we are. I do have several points of detail, though. Councillor Cunningham mentioned the intelligent client team, and that's mentioned in 2.5 and 3.13. I think that was the big thing during the work of the working group, that we really felt we needed to strengthen that in-house team. I noticed, I think to some extent he might have covered this, although his later comment when he said he preferred just one client, intelligent client team. It talks in the report, it's in the singular, but then he did say about novating. I'm not quite sure with his other second comment when he just said he would prefer it to be one. Perhaps he could just elaborate on how that's going to work. That would be helpful, and I'll save the other questions if you prefer. Get that one answered.
Yes, and to Councillor Cunningham, thank you for that. I would say, given the confidentiality, it would be, I think, difficult, be correct me if I'm wrong, to do scrutiny in the traditional sense, which is why I had the cross-party working group. So there's the opportunity, as you clearly have done, to raise questions there. I think I'm right in saying that because of the confidentiality, but I'll go to the cabinet member to answer.
Sorry.
No.
I didn't mean to respond.
Enthusiasm is always welcome, just not what I'm talking. So just to answer that point, and also to answer the question as well.
Thank you very much. Yes, certainly the point of scrutiny, it's a point Councillor McCrory's made very well made. We have done a private briefing to the place scrutiny team on this. And I totally appreciate why the scrutiny committee would have perhaps preferred an in public, more conventional meeting. Taking advice and considering the extent of this contract, this is a £1 billion contract, as we've alluded to. Some serious players in the industry are looking at bidding for this, which is very good news to have that competitive tension, but they will be investing in excess of £1 million, possibly £2 million on the contract. With the greatest respect, we need to make sure this is a level playing field, this is fair, and in a public meeting, it may have been more difficult for me and for the senior officers to speak as candidly as we would like on the issue, because there's nothing to suggest that some representatives from these organisations who are reaching out to Essex County Council and their requests are being dealt with appropriately may wish to get some, shall we say, insider information that would give them an unfair advantage. And we were very, very keen to ensure we are beyond all reproach, belt and braces, in taking this procurement process forward. With regard to his point about the intelligent client, the contract itself will be delivered in lots, the actual the operational output of it. Now, it is perfectly reasonable that when we put the enhanced client function together, that is disaggregated perfectly 3, 4, 5 different ways. My personal view, and the view I think of experts in this field, and having seen it in the last 2 years, it may well be for the successor unitaries' benefit if that expertise is kept in one place, particularly as the previous arrangements have been working across 12 districts, purely for the resilience, purely for the expertise, purely for the corporate memory. But that would be a decision for the successor unitary authorities, and it'd be for them to make. It would just be a personal recommendation as we hand over. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McCrory, you have some more questions, I think.
Thank you for that response. 3.55 on page 48 talks about the KPIs. Now, what happens to those KPIs? I hope that they will go to the relevant scrutiny committees of the individual unitary authorities. Is that what is proposed?
Again, that is absolutely what we'd hand over in the handover file in terms of recommendations. It will be for the successor unitaries to decide, but it's a very good basis, particularly for the first year or first or second year of the unitary authorities to monitor. And sorry, just if I go back to Councillor McCrory's first point, in terms of scrutiny, we're very happy to continue to be there at place scrutiny in whatever form is best suited as we go through this process. So very happy to give colleagues that assurance today. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Karen, beg pardon.
Lastly, 6.2.6 on page 53, it talks about 2% inflation. I mean, is that not rather optimistic, shall we say, given the current rate of inflation and predictions for next year and the year after? And we do know that year after year, they say it's going to come down the following year, and it never does. I just wonder how realistic that is. And it says in the report, the impact of higher than 2% is going to have on the costs. So would you like to comment on how realistic that figure is? Thank you.
I think it's a realistic figure sitting here talking to you in October 2020 15 unaware of what will happen in 5 years' time. I think if anyone had made predictions on inflation in 2019, I think they would, as we all know, those predictions wouldn't have lasted terribly long. I think, as I say, it's a good base figure for where we are at this moment in time. Those entering this competitive process will be aware of that. And when they are investing their £1 million or so in the contract tendering process, they will make appropriate provision for that in their costings. We live in uncertain terms, but we think that's a reasonable figure at this moment in time. Okay.
Thank you. The Chancellor, you said the word inflation. The Chancellor gets very excited, wishes to come in.
No, thank you, Leader. And I just want to make it clear that we always base ourselves on what the ambition is of the Bank of England, which is 2%, and that's why that's written into the contract as such.
And sorry, Chairman, as always, we take great advice from our finance officers, and from the prices are index linked. So that's where that's come from. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much indeed. Right, let's move then to Councillor Pond, who is online.
Thank you very much, Leader. Can you place yourself back to the year 2011? I was sitting in the seat which is I think now occupied by Councillor Cunningham, and I was cross-questioning Councillor Tracy Chapman, who was his predecessor of that time, on the contract that was about to be entered into. And I must say, I don't claim for myself any great gift of prescience, but the point that I was making, and many other members around the chamber making at that time, is that the proposed contract was too wooden. It got rid of a lot of very skilled and knowledgeable staff from throughout the county in the previous area organisation, and it substituted a dumb client rather than intelligent client to oversee the county's interests in the new contract. So I am very grateful that the Future Highways Group, of which I was a member, but not unable to be a particularly participative member, has suggested that the intelligent client, the enhanced client function of the County Council and its successors be adopted, because I think that was the mistake which was made in the 2012 contract, and I commend that it is going to be rectified after this time. I too had picked up the question of the 2% inflation which Councillor McCrory raised. I do think that is optimistic, but I agree you have to have a norm to work from. So I think what is proposed is suitable and is much better than what was adopted 13 years ago, and I commend it.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Pond. Very grateful. Some of us also remember the 2011 meeting and your comments then. Let's go to Councillor Scott, then Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Leader. Some general points, if I may. As you will know as my predecessor, and I know as Councillor Cunningham's predecessor, very few times does anyone thank the Cabinet member and indeed the officers in highways. I think on this occasion, I'm sure many other members would join me in thanking Councillor Cunningham and thanking officers for the work that has gone in to the Future Highways panel to bringing this to us today. If I can just refer back to Councillor McCrory's question about the confidentiality, that was the whole point in the Future Highways panel being set up cross-party with representation from all, because we knew because of the confidentiality it would not be able to be discussed outside that group until we reach a point where it comes to Cabinet today. But really all I wanted to just say was to thank Tom for everything he's done on this since taking over the portfolio. He's done a great job. Thank you on all our behalf, Tom.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Scott stolen my thunder a little bit. I too was a member of the Future Highways group, and so I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Director of Highways, Cabinet Member, and all of the team for the enormous amount of work that went into this. Thank you.
Councillor Schwer.
Thank you, Leader. I couldn't let this opportunity go by, but also adding my voice to what Councillor Scott and Fleming have just said about the working group. I think the working group, along with the officers, was very forthright and very interesting. And I wanted to extend our thanks to not only Councillor Scott and Councillor Tom Cunningham for that, but also all the officers, because it was a very hard working group. But it gave us a real opportunity to help what is before us today. And it was completely cross-party and confidential, and I welcome that. I just wanted to acknowledge all of that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to reveal they were members of the working group when we're here? No? Well done. Thank you. And I agree with all the comments being made, by the way. Very good. And it's an exceptional piece of work, given the complexities of what we're about to enter, which is a positive thing, but it comes with all the complexities we know. And this is a live contract that's going into that process. There'll be many others, by the way, both at our county area, unitary, and also our district colleagues as well. This is going to happen time and time again. This is really kind of, as I said the other day in a meeting, this is the role model of how to do it and how we're going to progress forward and to make this as smooth as ever. And just about to finish, but then Councillor Stamp, good to see you. Put your hand up.
Thank you. I wasn't sadly part of the group, so forgive me, but I'm just going to ask one basic question. And just say congratulations, fantastic. I've only just picked this up anyway. But what will it mean to the residents? Is it going to reduce the number of complaints we get? Is it better? Is it better going forward? And we all have to acknowledge that this is one of the most challenging cabinet positions, I think, on this council in its own right. But we are here to actually ask questions and ensure that we are serving our communities and our residents, whether we're rural, urban, etc. And I take on board the thousands of miles of highways, but can you reassure the residents that this newly negotiated contract is going to deliver? Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. And can I just thank colleagues for the very kind comments, which hugely appreciated and should really be aimed far more at the officers who have done tremendous work over the last 3 years. I thank Councillor Stamp for a question. Yes, I generally believe this will be better for residents because it'll be a contract that novates into unitary authorities, which will generally be better for residents. And I think in this area, in terms of highways, the pride in place work, we have a comprehensive highways function here at Essex County Council. The districts do a wonderful job in terms of the work they do in terms of value added, keeping things tidy and looking after our parks, open spaces. I think the opportunity when all these services are run by unitary councils, and I generally believe, I think 3 will serve this work extremely well, particularly not just the disaggregation of services from this authority, but the great opportunity to reap the full benefits of larger operational functions from the district councils coming up into the new unitary authorities. And I think the way we've set this contract up, with the new unitaries knowing they receive their, if you pardon the slightly crude expression, the bread and butter functions of the highways services, knowing those will be taken care of, the ability to develop, even in their first few years, that additionality using their scaled up operation teams, working with our joint contract provider, with the enhanced expertise that will be in the system, it will be better for residents, better value, better quality, better, quicker outcomes. I'm very, very excited about the prospects. Thank you.
Good, thank you. There are no other speakers. As we just go to the recommendations, I just would like the minutes to record our thanks to officers. We have Mr. Blackburn Mays here and also our new Executive Director for Highways. You're both very welcome. Thank you. But also, could you pass that thanks on to all your colleagues who've worked so hard on this? And I mustn't forget the Cabinet Advisor to Councillor Cunningham, who's also in the room. I know the work you have done and your predecessors done on this as well. So thank you very much. And it's important we say that. But thank yous could be easy to do, but this is an extraordinary piece of work given where we are. Right, now let's go to the vote. There are recommendations. We won't ask Councillor Cunningham to read all 10 out. They are on the order paper, unless you want me to. No, I think we'll go through it. They're on the order paper. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to move your recommendations, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chairman, I do apologise. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, sir. It's going so well. I'm looking at Lynette, that's what it is. Can I move recommendations 1 to 7 on the public paper, please? Thank you.
Colleagues, are we agreed? Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Cunningham. That was very kind. Thank you, and very well put. Right, let's move then on to...
Chairman, my apologies. I've moved totally the wrong recommendations. I'm informed by the Monitoring Office. It is actually 2.1 to 2.11 on the public paper. I do apologise.
Just when it was going so well. Right, okay, so we have the full recommendations now, as advised. Thank goodness the Monitoring Officer is in the room. Colleagues, are we agreed on those full recommendations? Thank you very much indeed. Right, we move on then to item number 6, which is the financial overview as at the half year in the capable hands of the Chancellor of Essex.
Thank you very much, Leader. And of course, I covered much of this on Tuesday at full council as well. I have to say we are still in a period of uncertainty that's around us at the moment. Just generally, we've got issues around the funding reform piece that the government are undertaking at the present time, so we don't know the outcome of that yet. Of course, there's local government reorganisation, and we continue to be at the mercy of external factors. I think that's really important to understand, including the demand on social care, and in particular the complexity of some of what we're now facing. However, despite these challenges, as I said previously, we're in a strong position at the half-year stage. We're currently 0.5% overspend on our net revenue budget of 1.2 billion. That's 5.6 million. This is mostly driven by the overspend of 10.1 million in children's and families, and largely relating to placements for children in care, driven by higher than expected volumes and price in mainstream residential external foster care and unregistered arrangements. These are issues that are being seen nationally and need to be addressed at a national level as well. Although I have to say we do a brilliant job at our Essex level and continue to work hard to address some of these issues. Inflation, as we've heard earlier on when we talked about contracts, is expected to remain in its current elevated position between 3 and 4% for most of this year. And in fact, that was a headline on the news only this week to say that inflation is likely to stay higher for longer. And of course, the UK is suffering more than most economies when it comes to inflation for particular reasons. Of course, any fluctuations in the inflation rate could have a financial impact moving forwards. Interest rates have started to reduce, but remain elevated to what they were in recent years. And there is no expectation of significant reductions in the near term, which provides a short-term positive impact on investment returns, but it can be could cause issues later on when we're borrowing. At the moment, what we've seen is that those investment returns have helped to address the overspend that we have, and that needs to be welcomed. The final key headline from today's report is an underspend of 21.9 million on the capital programme before adjustments proposed in this report, as set out, 5.9% against a budget of 370.4 million. This year, the programme will deliver work on around 240 schemes, including road maintenance and major infrastructure schemes, such as the Harlow Sustainable Transport Corridor, Bewley Park train station, as we heard, is opening shortly, the A133 to A120 link, and Chelmsford North East bypass. I think we have every reason to be confident that the sound financial management of this council and the fact that all our services are working together to address any overspends is really good news. And as I said on Tuesday, I would bring everyone's attention to the fact that most of our services are in line with their budgets or plus or minus 1%.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions. Firstly, Councillor David King, then Councillor Ivan Henderson. Councillor King.
Thank you. I just want to congratulate the team. That's part of the challenge that we give to each other And I hope it helps the public, if not the Chancellor of Essex, to hear from his colleagues who've heard this in full council to some degree. So I just want to sort of say that from my perspective as a counterpart, this remains a very well-run fiscally local authority. This is evidence of strong performance. That's really important to us all and to confidence in our future, despite some really significant national and government-induced headwinds, of which have been remarked upon by the councillor. I would just draw attention to points of concern, if I may. So a question in this, that in terms of managing our finances, can we please continue to ensure that we invest in areas where we do have acknowledged performance weaknesses, like SEND? Can we continue also to keep our focus on LGR as an issue of importance to us all, to ensure that what matters most to the future of the county in terms of capital projects does continue? We keep our foot down and we sign off and or deliver before that transition starts to take effect. And lastly, mindful of adult and in particular children's social care, the challenge inside that marketplace, a number of us are aware that that's being addressed and would ask to be kept cited. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor King, for your comments. They're most helpful. And of course, as a council, we've been dedicated to focusing our investment and spending on areas where we have vulnerable people to deal with, including SEND, children's services and adult social care. And from day one, the Leader of Council has always been clear that is our priority as a council before anything else. So I think that should give you confidence in that. With regards to local government reorganisation, we have got a very clear focus on what we're doing with regular meetings. And of course, you've just heard our most significant procurement recently has got underpinning it the focus on LGR. I think that shows as a council how committed we are, not only to what's going on now today, but obviously what the future holds for us as well.
Thank you. Let's move to Councillor Henderson.
Thanks again, Leader. And can I first of all show my appreciation to the finance officers who have given us a really good brief, and so there's not that many questions which I have. Most of them have been answered since that briefing, and I'll just highlight one concern. And in the overall picture of the overall budget of the county council, it doesn't seem big, but the headline is worrying, and that is on page 64. Where it says 1.3 million within the Youth Justice Service, where there's been an increase in remand bed nights. It's important to note that more young people are on remand for more serious offences requiring more secure and high cost accommodation. Within some of these finances, some of these headlines are obviously to all of us are quite worrying and worth highlighting those concerns. I'm sure we're going to interrogate this more when we have our corporate scrutiny committee and go through this finance. Just a couple more questions. From our brief, and I note there's 600 million now in reserves. Could the finance portfolio tell me if any of this, is there any plans to earmark any of those reserves to the future Mary Lex budget in May? Are we holding back any money for that? And on the issue of going back to the issue of LGR, I understand that the council is sending households across the whole of Essex a communication on LGR. Can you tell me which budget that finance come from? And how much was it? How much is the overall cost of that communication? And also, can you tell me what governance process was followed on agreeing for that amount of money to be spent? Thank you, Leader.
Yes, of course. And I would hope that all authorities involved in LGR would do exactly the same thing. It is our public duty to inform people and to use their money to make sure that they're understanding the decisions that we are taking. However, I'll go to the Chancellor.
Thank you very much, Leader. And of course, let me start with the issue of youth justice and the courts, because most of the pressure on our budget is driven by delays in the court processes. So that's something that we've got a close eye on. And I know that will probably be a question when we come to corporate scrutiny, and look forward to that meeting where we're asked those questions. With regards to the reserves for the mayor-elect, no, there is no provision at this stage. What we do every year, of course, is we do review the reserves on a quarterly basis to make sure that they're all being used in the correct way, and that we are making sure that the residents' money, as at the end of the day, even reserves is residents' money, are treated in the right fashion. With regards to the cost for LGR, this was approved via CMA, which is our normal government process, governance process, and we will need to follow up with specific cost in detail for Councillor Henderson, which we will do.
So via CMA, it was made available to all members to see. That's correct, isn't it? Okay, right. Thank you very much indeed. Are there any other questions, colleagues? In which case, Chancellor, there are a lot of recommendations. You don't have to read them out this time, as I asked you to do last time, but they are on the order paper. Would you like to move those recommendations, please?
Thank you, Leader. And yes, I'm relieved not to have to read them out this time. It would have taken quite a long time to do that. But if we could look at the recommendations set out within the papers on page 59 of this agenda, 2.1 to 2.2, can we take those as being agreed?
Colleagues? Then I think also you have some adjustments to approve from 2.2.
I do, Leader. They're set out very clearly in the papers. Can we agree those adjustments?
Colleagues, are we agreed? Thank you very much indeed. Right, that concludes the public part of the meeting. The date of the next meeting to be held in this chamber on the 4th of November 2025 at 10:15. The last item is urgent business. There is no urgent business that has been brought to my attention. Therefore, we do need to go into the private session, but I do need to read this out and you do need to vote on it. That the press and public are excluded from the meeting during the consideration of the remaining items of business on the grounds that they can involve the likely disclosure of exempt information falling within Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972, the specific paragraphs of Schedule 12A engage being set out in the report or appendix relating to